The People's Business is made possible by our partners, Solar Dynamics, the most efficient energy systems.
A very good evening to you and welcome to this edition of the People's Business Live. I'm your presenter, Ryan Broome. There's a saying that water is life. And tonight we have a very important topic to discuss. The Barbados Water Authority tackling the breakdowns and discolored water issues, given all that's been happening in recent times. And to help us do that, we have Mr. Charles Leslie, the Director of Engineering with the BWA. Also, we have Mr. Alex IFILL, Manager, Water Resources and Environmental Management, also of the BWA. And we'll be back with the opening comments after this break. Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where the topic tonight, the Barbados Water Authority tackling the breakdowns and discolored water issues. Now, before I get to my guests, just to put this discussion into context, in the recent weeks, I would say probably even months, with the heavy rainfall we've been having, the Barbados Water Authority has had some complaints of discolored water issues and outages impacting customers, particularly in St. John, St. George, and St. Philip. Now, these are usually issues that he would have heard about in the past in the northern part of the country, but these are issues that we understand have been occasioned by the heavy rainfall. And I'm going to put it there to let my guests explain. We often hear this saying, sometimes water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Is it a case of having too much rainfall? Because I know sometimes even at that station, I've seen colleagues go down into the well and we've seen when it's been extremely low. But then we obviously get the flip side of that when it's extremely high. So just tell us a bit now about those particular issues, gentlemen, and what are the specific things that lead to that situation. Let's start with you, Mr. Leslie.
Okay, good evening, I'm Ryan. Good evening, Barbados. The Barbados Water Authority supplies most of its potable water primarily from groundwater. And one of the major sources on the island is the Biston cave system. It's located in St. John. The Biston well, which we have in that area, feeds from this cave system, and it's one of the oldest and most productive sources on the island. It provides as much as between 2 to 3 million imperial gallons per day, which is just about 5% of the total water that we produce on the island. The immediate areas around the Biston source is mostly agricultural, and there are some irregular features in the surface, like sinkholes and gullies and so forth. And these features make the source productive, but it also makes it vulnerable to above ground land use practices, since the runoff from these lands may end up into the cave system. So during what we recognize is during significant rainfall events, the Biston system the water becomes cloudy, or in technical terms, it becomes turbid. And this is because particles of the silt and so forth from the runoff gets into that stream. And when this happens, we have to take that offline, because then the water it doesn't look pleasant to the eye, and we then stop pumping from that source until the water clears up enough so that we can resume the pumping. As you correctly said, the Biston source serves St. John, parts of St. Philip, and parts of St. George. And when we stop pumping, we lose obviously that supply to those areas, and we have to make it up. What we've been doing recently is trying to make that up by extending some of the adjacent systems during these periods, to allow, or to mitigate against some of the outages in those areas. So I can stop there for now, and then as you go on, I can add more.
Okay, I'll let you come in here now, Mr. Eiffel, and just to give your perspective as well, your from your angle on these issues.
Right. As Mr. Leslie just said, now the Boomerstone system is a pretty unique system in that, unlike the other systems in Barbados, where you have the water being extracted from the matrix of the rock ordinarily, in the Boomerstone system, this is a system of caves similar to Harrison's Cave that we've gone down and put a dam across to pump the water from. Now, in this area, there are a number of entrances to the surface. Under normal circumstances, Boomerstone would get the water coming through the matrix of the rock, coming through the holes in the rock, filtering out. Now, when you have extremely heavy rainfall, as we've been having recently, where we've had some heat and we've had an extended dry season, and where we've seen our rainfall season pretty compressed to the latter half of October and the beginning of November. This then led to heavy overland flows, and those overland flows then entered through crevices and holes in the rock, like say at Pool, and also through numerous sinkholes that is in the Boomerstone area. This then allows the soil to mix with the water and run off, and some of these particles are less than a millionth of an inch, so they don't settle easy. And so these then are then carried into the Boomerstone caves, causing that discoloration. Now, there are numerous sources of these entrances. We've detected some of the major ones, but there are literally hundreds of sinkholes at this level of Barbados because of the geology. And trying to find those entrances, you need to be there at the time the rain is falling to actually identify every single entrance. And that is a challenge that we are having, and we are presently mapping those entrances so that once we map those entrances, then we can provide action to counteract the entrance of the silt into the caves.
Okay, so we've identified the problem, but first question: is this something that you're only now encountering, or is it that we've had so much rainfall that this is unusual compared to previous years? Because I imagine that this is something you might have encountered in the past, but what makes this time so different?
Right, as I was saying before, one of the things you would have noticed recently, everybody was complaining for the heat, farmers were complaining about the crops, and so forth. But then in the period late October, which is usually heavy rainfall season, to the middle of November, it seemed like almost our whole rainfall season had been compressed into that time span, causing then, while you would have had rainfall stretching over a longer period, and the significant overland flows would have been reduced, what you had now is a lot of rainfall in a small period, causing all that brown water you will see going in the sea. That same water will then get a chance to overtop the sinkholes, to overtop some of the crevices in the gullies, and find their way to Boomerstone Caves. Yes, we've seen it before, but there are so many entrances. That is why we are mapping them. That now, I don't want to blame climate change, but This is a signal of climate change where our rainy season has contracted significantly. So we have an extended rainfall dry season and a compressed rainy season, leading to heavy flows over land in the upper levels of Barbados, and therefore that is one of the causes that has exacerbated
So,
it
so,
at this time.
so that's the cause. Now, what are the solutions?
Okay, the Barbados Water Authority engaged a team of international and local experts to study this problem at Bomiston, and they've made and to make recommendations basically on how we can minimize or completely eliminate the issues of the cloudy water. The team, in their analysis, they found that there were accumulation of sediments in the Bomiston well itself. And when they went through the caves at Bomiston, they recognized that there were some dry sediments as well on the cave walls. When they did the testing, they found out that they would have done testing at Bomiston, at Poole, and a number of areas, as Alex was indicating just now, a number of the other sinkhole areas. And what they found is that some of the clays and silts that they found on the cave walls seem to have been washed from the cultivated fields into the cave system. And one of the locations, the sinkholes that they're saying is most likely to cause the elevated turbidity at Bomiston, or the elevated cloudiness when you have those high intensity rainfall periods, is at the pool gully and the pool sinkhole area. What the Barbados Water Authority has done then is look at a multi-stage approach, which was recommended by the team of experts to address the problem. And the first stages of the approach um, spelt or recommended that we looked at increasing our monitoring and testing, as well as in implementing a cleaning program to remove accumulated sediment within the cave system. The Barbados Water Authority has implemented the cleaning of the cave system, and we are continuing the monitoring, especially during the dry and wet seasons. The recommendations also looked at the removal of accumulated sediment in the pool gully and at the pool cave entrance, as well as upgrading a rock dam, which we had installed a couple of years back in the pool gully to help to mitigate against the um, the the silt getting into the caves. So some action plans were developed, um, and we then sourced funding for these to execute these plans. And the BW now is in the final stage of executing a contract to do cleaning upstream in the Wilmington catchment. This cleaning is going to be in the pool gully as well as the pool cave entrance, and it will entail the removal of large trees that have grown up over time and we believe are contributing to the problem. It would look at the installation of a new dam, removal of the existing dam and the smaller dam that we had, and putting in a larger dam, cleaning suck wells in the pool area, and creating a detention pond so that when you do have overland flows that contain silt, the silt then will be detained um, in this pond before it goes into the stream. And then we'll be looking at erosion control measures upstream in the catchment. This Wilmington catchment extends from as far up as the Clifton Hall area, and it comes all down through Small Town, down all the way down into Bomiston, and eventually down into the St. George area. The timelines for doing the work at Pool basically it will be starting in February next year. Um, this has been deliberate to start it the beginning of the dry season, because it is risky to go and stimulate the soils, remove vegetation and that type of stuff in the rainy season, because you have the increased possibility of worsening the problem during the rainy season. So it's been deliberately targeted at the dry season, and this work in that pool area is estimated to take us about four months. Once that work is completed, then we'll be also looking at um, cleaning of the Bowmanston Reservoir. That reservoir is one of the oldest reservoirs on the island, cleaning and rehabilitating that reservoir. But before we do that, we'll be installing a new reservoir at Bowmanston, so that when we do take the old reservoir offline, that the customers will be negatively impacted. And then we will do that work on the old reservoir. And once we are finished, then we will have additional storage at the location to help to buffer any instances where we do have to take the station offline. So we have an action plan which is multi-stage, and we're going to be working right through that action plan to do the rehabilitative work on that system.
Okay, at this time we have some callers on the line. I've been having them holding for a little while. Good night, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
Good night, sir. I'm calling from St. Lucie regarding the discoloration of water we have over the past 5 years, and it seems not to be getting any better.
You have a specific question, or you just want an update on the?
I want to update on the situation, because this is 5 years we've gone through it.
In relation to the problem at St. Lucie, we have done a multi-stage system approach there also. One, we have basically been looking at replacing the aged pipe network, and we've done some work from to Boscobel. We are presently in Crab Hill replacing a significant amount of both 6-inch and 4-inch mains in Crab Hill. So, we are swabbing the mains out there. The ones in Crab Hill has recently been tested for passing by the Ministry of Health, because before we put them back in supply, we need to test them. And once we've completed Crab Hill, we'll be going to Josie Hill, another area that has significant discoloration problems, and to replace those mains up there. Also, we've imported a filtration system to be used at the Allendale pumping station, which serves the area. Now, they would have heard us talking about this filtration system for quite some while, but we too in Barbados were impacted by the challenges of shipping, because we ordered that system quite a while ago, and it only arrived on the island a few weeks ago. So we're presently looking at putting that system together at our Bowmanston site. It is accompanied by some significant civil works that has to go on at the Allendale station to install that filtration system. Now, the contract is almost complete for the contractor, and the civil works that they will take about 4 months to do, because usually water infrastructure takes time to install. So you have the filtration system coming. Each will play its part. That will reduce any silt that might come from the Allendale well. The mains, we have a significant mains replacement program in the St. Lucie area. And thirdly, we are using an alternative source at Villa Maria and St. Peter to supplement with the water into St. Lucie, to give some relief to the lower part of St. Lucie with the discoloration of water. But within the next 5 to 6 months, we will begin to see the impact of the installation of the filtration system at Allendale, and in between that time, you will also see the impacts of the improvement in the mains network in St. Lucie.
Okay, that's a good place to stop. I have another caller line, but I'm going to ask you to hold caller as we take this first break. We'll be back with our People's Business Live in just a moment. Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where the topic tonight, the Barbados Water Authority, tackling the breakdowns and discolored water issues. Before we went to the break, the gentlemen were giving us an update on the solutions to problems facing not only residents in St. John and other parishes in relation to the Bowmanston, St. John, St. George, and St. Philip in relation to the Bowmanston station, and also getting an update on the discolored issues for another reason, I believe I should say, and they would correct me, in the northern part of the island, where their discolored issues are related to the older pipes and so on, and the replacement. Before I get the next caller on the line, gentlemen, could you give me an idea of what the cost would be for these two projects, both the one that's happening in terms of Bowmanston and the one that's going to affect the northern part, Allendale and so on?
Okay, in the St. John area, the Bowmanston problem, the 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 cleaning of the upstream catchment and installing the dam, creation of the detention pond, cleaning the sat wells, and so forth. That's approximately $1 million Barbados dollars. Then at Bowmanston, the construction of a new reservoir, cleaning, maintaining, or do rehabilitation work on the existing reservoir. That work, making modifications to the distribution system there at Bowmanston and so forth, that is approximately just over 3 million Barbados dollars. And then the final stage in that whole program the final stage will be the installation of a filtration system, and that's estimated at approximately 8 million Barbados dollars. The maintenance and so forth of the catchment and upstream areas, that will be an ongoing process that we will have to undertake. In the north of the island, there are approximately 30 kilometers of mains that we would like to replace in the north of the island. These are 3-inch, 4-inch, some larger transmission mains like 8s and 10s, and it normally takes the Barbados Water Authority approximately $1 million per kilometer to do replacements. So we're looking at roughly $30 million or so in the north of the island in terms of the replacement of those aged mains in that network.
Okay, and that replacement of those mains would end the discoloration issues completely, or you would still need to have that filtration system that's coming online as well?
Well, we are adding the filtration system to polish the water from the well and to remove any fine sediment that we're getting from that well. But the primary cause in the north of the island is the aged mains. And because of those aged mains, we are encountering a lot, high levels of what we call non-revenue water or wastage of water, because we're getting frequent breaks, and when we do get those frequent breaks, we end up wasting water through those frequent breaks. There's some areas, um, you know, some mains that break multiple times in a month. What we have done, we've tried to when we go in to do repairs, change a couple of lengths at a time. But the network in the north is aged, and over the years, we have not spent a lot of money on the replacement of mains on the island. Um, our mains replacement program really started back in 2014, but prior to that, we didn't have the funding basically to do the mains replacement. But now the international agencies are seeing the need to deal with water and sanitation, so the funding is more forthcoming to deal with the replacements.
So of that 30 kilometers that needs to be done in the north, where are we in terms of progress so far?
Okay, as Alex indicated, we started and we're working in the Crab Hill area. That Crab Hill area is about 5 kilometers, and we are about 70% complete in that Crab Hill area. We are going to be going into the Josie Hill area next. We would have replaced a transmission main from our Lambert's pumping station up to our Basketball pumping station. And once we finish the Josie Hill area, there's some other areas like Maycox and so forth that we'll be going into as well to do replacements.
Okay, and I'm understand we have another caller on the line. Good night, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
Yeah, good evening to you and your panel. I have a comment to make on this muddy water coming out of Bowmanston. I've lived in this area from 1960, and it was never as bad as this. I am assuming from all indications that this muddy water is primarily getting into the aquifers by surface water. Has anybody considered that the lands around Bowmanston, probably 90% from Ashford to Carlton, around Clifton, all right around Poole, Wakefield, they're not cultivated as they used to be. There are very few acres that are being cultivated and tilled. If there was tillage being done, the water would have a better chance to penetrate the land instead of running on top of the surface and taking all the mud into Bowmanston. So if there were a means of getting the land used again correctly, you would be benefiting from the output of the land, and you would be using the natural filtration that was used years ago. This man-made filtration at $8 million is a lot of money. And who is to say about the maintenance on it? So I honestly think that serious consideration should be given to getting all the CLECO lands and the other lands that are not being used back into proper production.
Okay, gentlemen, agriculture.
Yeah, we are in agreement. We are in agreement with you, sir. At least this is the point that I'm glad everyone is beginning to recognize it now. We are in agreement with you that a significant amount of the siltation going into the Bowmanston caves is soil being lost from our farmlands surrounding the Bowmanston area. And that is why this filtration system that Mr. Leslie described is that we are going to use a geotechnical membrane and some gabions to prevent some of that soil from getting into the caves. But that is our role as the water authority in keeping the water as clean as possible. So that is one of the methods of prevention that we are employing. But we do accept the statement that it is runoff from that soil, and that is a significant agricultural loss to the island. And anything that can prevent that loss is a saving of agricultural land, which we need for food production, and is a prevention of siltation to the Bowmanston caves. So it is implementing land use practices like that is a double saving to Barbados, in that you save agricultural land, keep the quality of your soils, and at the same time, you don't negatively impact the groundwater.
Okay. Just to stay on this issue of the in the Bowmanston area, are you aware whether there's any intention to recultivate those lands or to put them back into productive use as the caller had said, or is that something that I guess is not necessarily within your are you aware of any such intentions?
I know there's a significant talk about integrated water resources management, but that is a question for the physical development department and the Ministry of Agriculture. We are consulted and we are a key stakeholder in those processes, but we can't speak to that.
Okay, I believe we have another caller on the line. Good night, caller. Please go ahead with your comments or question.
Good night.
Good night to you.
Good night.
Good night,
Don't
sir.
please don't listen to your television, sir. Actually, if you can mute it
All right,
during
turn
the
it off.
discussion. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, sir. I am asking a question. Those $2 million million gallon tanks that was placed at Mount Pleasant, which the line, or I don't know the capacity, Joe, but was running from Straw Hill through Merced Street, Cross Lodge, Colleton, Eastmont, down to Pool. They had to continue and went straight to the distributor at Golden Ridge, or they went into Burmiston, that water line from St. Philip, from Vineyard.
That system from Vineyard was primarily to put water into the Golden Ridge system, which then transfers it up to Castle Grant. But during periods, during times when we have turbidity or discolored water issues at Bowmanston, some of that water we change up the distribution system to use some of that water in the St. John area especially, and parts of St. George and St. Philip as well.
Okay, thank you. Question about downtime now, gentlemen. Obviously, what we're saying here, there are some technical issues that we've been discussing. Obviously, the contributing, the causes really to what's been happening both in the St. John area and in the north of the island. But in terms of, let's talk about downtime now. As this situation with Bowmanston in particular caused a lot of discomfort for your customers in recent times. People who, you have, as we have to come to expect, like Bajans, you expect the water to be coming through the tap at every minute when it's supposed to be there as a paying customer. But what about downtime? We've talked about some of these solutions, and we're aware of the downtime so far. On average, what kind of downtime does this particular issue with Bowmanston take to get things back to a place of quote unquote normalcy? And looking ahead, what kind of downtime can your customers expect with the planned improvements?
Okay, at present, when we only get issues when we have the intense rainfall at Bowmanston. In the past, we would have been offline for a couple hours sometimes, or at maximum a couple of days. But what we're finding now with the intense rainfall and the surface runoff, the station we have to take the station offline for longer periods of time. What we have done in the interim is to make adjustments to adjacent distribution systems. So we've been able to mitigate the outages in St. John, St. Philip, and as I indicated, parts of St. George. We are working to see how we can even mitigate more areas in St. George from the adjacent systems when we have the issue. In terms of the downtime when we're actually doing the work, we indicated that we have specifically chosen to do the work during the dry season. During the dry season, we're doing the work in the dry season because then you have the chances of surface runoff taking any of the soil while we're doing the work and taking it into the stream are drastically reduced. So that's why we're doing the work in the dry season. So when we're doing the work in the dry season, the customer should not be affected at all when we're doing that work in the dry season. We will be, as I indicated, doing the cleaning. We will be treating with surface erosion. In the upstream catchment, we're looking at trying to see how we can deal with preventing that erosion. So we shouldn't have any downtime in terms of the cleaning and so forth. At the Bowmanston facility, we are building a new reservoir there. We knew that we had to do the rehabilitative work on the old reservoir and do cleaning on that. And if we had to take that offline without an alternative, the customers would be affected. So this is why we are creating the new reservoir at Bowmanston, so that when we are doing the rehabilitative work there, we don't have that facility going offline, for long periods. There will be some instances like when we're making up connections for the new tank and so forth. At that point in time, the customers will be notified, but that will be just a couple of hours when we're doing those connections. So we plan to work to try to minimize the downtime for the customers, and the effects that they will have on their supplies.
Okay, thank you. And that's a good point. We have to take another break here. Remember, you can join us with your calls. I understand we have one on the line. 228-5562, 228-5563. We're back with more People's Business right after this break. Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where we've been discussing tonight the Barbados Water Authority, tackling the breakdowns and discolored water issues. I understand we have another caller on the line. Good night to you, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
Hello?
Hello, good night. Caller,
Good
please
night.
go ahead with your comment or question. Please do not
night,
listen to
sir.
your television, or you may be confused.
Excuse me. Yeah, what I'm saying is, sir, that in the days when the plantation used to work the lands around the pool area, remember they had cuss grass plant at the head row. And I felt that when the rainfall, that the cuss grass used to come as a strainer, so that when the water, and even on the side of the road, the water used to be clear rather than muddy. And another question too. I would like to know what is the position with the college spring at Catchment College. Because my understanding that presently that water is going straight into Consett Bay. Hello?
Right. Okay. As we said before, yes, we know that the land use practices have changed and has impacted the ability of soils to be retained on the land and to therefore impact Bowmanston Caves. That is a given. In relation to Catchment College, we do use Catchment College. Now, one of the things that is not generally known is that we have a source of water at Catchment College, but there are what they call riparian rights. These are rights of persons downstream that have been using a source of water for time immemorial to have access to that water. So you will find at Catchment College, there, although they have the pool there is an overflow from the pool going down through the gully, the same water that some is going to the sea. But some of it is used for farming. So you will see there was a project funded by the United Nations grant program for farmers in that area to use water. So yes, we are using water, and two, many times people forget that the environment itself needs water. So that water also maintains that nice gully with all the wildlife and so forth you see going down there. So we are using the water at the top. There was a Rastafarian group that got some money to use that water for farming. There are some small farmers in the area that use the overflow, and the ecosystem uses some of that water. Yes, some goes to the sea, and that can't be avoided, but that water is definitely used.
Okay, thank you. I understand. We have another caller on the line. Good night to you, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
Hello.
Good night to you, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
Yes, my question for the panel relates to the Bomiston system. My study of the area shows that about 70% of the watershed enters a cave system out by Eastbourne. Now, if I wonder why the Water Authority has not investigated that cave system, because if the runoff from 70% of the watershed is going into that cave system, it appears to me there's a high probability that you will also get the clays and the muds entering the system through that cave. I'd like to hear what the panel thinks about that.
Okay, let me answer that. The Water Authority, as I indicated, had engaged some consultants to assist us with the studying of this problem. And they've looked at the entire catchment. As I indicated, the catchment goes as far up as like Edie's Village. From their description, Edie's Village, Clifton Hall, Wakefield, all those areas they're indicated, and they would have examined all of those areas. Some of those areas have fissures, and they have sinkholes and many other surface features. But the one that they indicated or the two that they indicated are most likely to have been causing contributions of the silt to the Bomiston Cave system is the Pool Gully, the pool catchment area, the Pool Gully. And then there's another one, a secondary one they've indicated is the Duck Pond feature, which is a little bit closer to Bomiston. But they've indicated that the primary source, based on their testing, and they would have taken samples of the soil from different locations, and taken samples within the cave system as well. And when they compare these, they recognize that the primary contributing factor is the pool area. They may be, as Alex had indicated and as the caller had indicated, there may be contributions from other areas, but they're saying that the primary contributing factor is the Pool Gully. That's why we're concentrating on that particular area first, and then working as we are implementing these measures. There is still going to be the process of evaluating the work that has been done and the effectiveness of that work, until we have completely reduced or eliminated the problem. But the recommendations is that that we look at those primary sources first, and then go from there.
Okay, Mr. Leslie, it seems that we've been getting some calls from people who seem to know some of these areas pretty well. Do you also incorporate into your studies, in terms of the experts who come in, as well as any local historical knowledge that might also come to bear?
Yes. The team that did the work at Bomiston comprised of international and local people. So you had local hydrogeologists, you had local engineers, all making up that team of person, because the international people would have brought in their experiences from other areas, but we had the local knowledge from our local teams here on the ground, and they use that combination to bring solutions to this problem that we're having at Bomiston.
Okay, well done. We do have another call on the line. Good night to you, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
I'm from St. Lucie. My understanding is that the lazy placement program in St. Lucie has started rapid, but it has also stopped. I want to know if that project had been fully funded and why was it stopped?
Stop.
No, the mains replacement program in Crab Hill has not stopped. We are continuing that project as we speak. It started in April, um, and we are continuing that project. We up to last week I indicated we are up to about 70% now with with those installations down there. We would have started from the Crab Hill, just opposite the Crab Hill police station. We would have gone right down to the bay, and then we went back into the avenues, and we're coming around now to the coming back to the behind like the sailor school, in that area,
Okay.
and eventually we will be um, coming all the way back to um, to the other end, to the southern southwestern end of that whole area.
Okay, thank you. Another caller. Good night to you, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or
Yes.
question.
Good night, Mr. Moderator, and good night to the panel.
Good night to you.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.
I think that the Water Authority is doing a great job. Yeah. I just watch a lot of water rangers, and I can see it's a hard job, but I think that they all are doing a great job. But my problem is that there are a lot of burstmans around the place. So I want to know what y'all are doing about all these burstmans.
Okay. The As we indicated, our network on the island is aged. There are approximately 2,500 kilometers of mains across the island, ranging from 3-inch all the way up to 21-inch. Um, for over the 130-year period since we started pipe boring water to various areas on the island, we have not done any major mains replacement. So what we're finding now, our age network is contributing to frequent bursts, as the caller just indicated. We're contributing to discolored water problems. So we have a number of um, areas across the island. We have in the north, you have some in St. James, you have some in Christchurch. So the age network is really contributing, and we get approximately between 80 to 90 burst mains on the system per month, and this is high for any water utility. It causes us to lose a lot of water to what we call non-revenue water. So we produce the water, but then we don't get any revenue for it because it is going in the burst. Because we didn't have funding in the past, we couldn't do the mains replacement. We just extended the network to service new developments. But as I indicated earlier, from 2014, we would have started mains replacement major programs. The first one was funded by the um, IDB Bank. We at that time replaced 40 kilometers of main, and since then we've been getting additional funding from the Caribbean Development Bank and other banks to assist us with mains replacement. Actually, next year we will be starting another major program in the Castle Grande area. That is another old distribution system, and we'll be doing approximately, I think, between 12 to 16 kilometers of mains replacement in that area. We also have put together a comprehensive mains replacement program or package, which we will be working alongside the Ministry of Public Works, because as they are doing the roads, we're trying to work alongside of them, that we replace the mains at the same time, those mains that are defective, so that um, the country can benefit from doing that capital work, and not having to go back to those roads in a long time.
Okay, we're coming into the home stretch of the program, and I do want to try to get in as many callers as possible. We have to take a break here, so any callers on the line, please just hold until right after this break. We're back with more of the People's Business Live in just a moment. Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where we go straight to the caller who's holding online. Good night to you, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question. Good night, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question. Okay, I believe that, yes, we've lost that caller. It's a good point here now to get into another area that we haven't really touched on as much tonight, even though it has come up kind of fleetingly, and that's the area of catchment and storage. One of the things that most Barbadians have been commenting on is that we've been having a lot of rainfall, as you gentlemen have mentioned. But what are we doing? What are our efforts looking like to actually capture a lot of that and some of it from getting back and just running off into the sea? Are we doing a better job of that? Are we storing more? Are we catching more rainwater than we were before? What's the situation? Gentlemen?
Don't know, but when you look at the area of Whole Town, where we were constantly getting significant flooding in Whole Town, even with this compressed rainfall season, with heavy rains and flooding in other areas, you would have noticed that Whole Town as an area have not flooded as often. That is because there was a project done to actually retain water upstream and channel it into dams and to allow it to sink into the ground and therefore, in a sense, recharge the aquifer while reducing the impact of flooding on Whole Town. There are things in the gullies there just to the north of St. Thomas Church where actions have been done in that gully forcing water into the ground and therefore reducing flooding downstream again and adding to the aquifer recharge. If you look just above the St. James Cemetery, you will see a significant feature that has been built there to do that. But this is nothing new. This is something that has been going on in Barbados for some while. But we must also say that to maintain those gullies and so forth, some water must travel through those gullies, and you definitely can't catch all. We will catch as much as is practical, and therefore to maintain that flora and fauna in the gullies, because we all like to say that trees help with rain, but trees also need rain, and that is why some water must still go down to those gullies. Some will still go to the sea. But yes, there has been significant efforts. One of the projects was funded by the United States Agency for International Development that significantly impacts recharge to the groundwater.
Okay.
To add to what Ms. Eiffel said, the Ministry of Agriculture has also been working to capture some of that water above ground in ponds. I don't know if the callers have heard of like the Bronx Pond. There's a pond at Lears. There are a number of ponds around the island, and what this helps to do, it helps to reduce the dependency of the farmers on the potable water system. So it takes the strain off the potable water system, and they can use that water that runs off and is captured in those ponds for agricultural purposes.
Okay. I have another call on the line. Good night, caller. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
Hello, good night.
Good night, sir. Please go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Biston and the problem there. As a young, I'm 80 years now. I'm old. So they had that problem already in my father's time. When I get a young man, I drive in truck and going to Clifton Hall for Canes. You hardly want to go on the ground because the ground used to cut different, like gardens in 4 squares, in 12 squares, okay. And the drains in there used to be about nearly 4 feet from up on the wall there, so right back out to Clifton Hall, back to Hutterson, okay. to catch the water from not going anywhere. Because I asked him, my father one time, why to do that? He said, boy, if you don't do that, boy, we're still going to get the water, the clean water. Mm-hmm. And then...
You have a specific question, sir?
No, I just given a little advice that happened years ago.
Okay.
And to get it clear. And pool. They got a place called Coupon. If the fellas know about Coupon. Wrong there also, this trap water there, that pond down there. And they had it cut the same way.
Okay,
so when
sir.
the U planters come and level up everything, level up the inside there. The fellow went very close to it just now to tell you exactly what happened.
Okay, sir. Thank you. We have to cut it there. Unfortunately, we take a quick break here. I'll be right back with you. More People's Business Live to wrap up the program. Welcome back to the People's Business, where we're literally into the home stretch now and just a few moments left. So I'm going to ask both gentlemen to just give us their parting words, their parting shot, so to speak, on where we're likely to be given the situation in terms of the water right now. Mr. Leslie, start with you first.
Okay. The Barbados Water Authority would like to express sincere appreciation to the customers for bearing with us through this period. Wilmington problem is a complex problem, but we're dealing with it, and we have a multi-stage approach to dealing with it. And they should begin to see some relief once we've completed a number of the stages that we've described in the past. For further updates, we're going to be trying to give the customers further updates in our water Wednesdays and so forth as we continue with that project.
Okay, and Mr. IFILL, from your end.
The solution to Boomiston is a multi-sector solution, and all our stakeholders are on board and helping us with this. One key stakeholder is the Met Services and CIMH that will give us updates when there's heavy rainfall expected, and therefore that we can then proactively do work to avoid this water getting into the system. So again, we express our sincere appreciation to the customers and their at this trying time, and we will wish to give you a better service in the future, and we'll keep you updated whenever necessary.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. That's where we wrap it. We heard tonight, obviously, in this program, the tackling the breakdowns and discolored water issues. We did manage to touch on the issues affecting both Wilmington and the north of the island. And I want to thank both of my guests, Mr. Charles Leslie, the Director of Engineering with the BWA, and Mr. Alex IFILL, Manager of Water Resources and Environmental Management, also with the BWA. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, callers. And apologies to those whose calls we couldn't take. But please do have a good night.